Business Central and Power Automate, specifically Power Automate, because that is the solution that you are most familiar with out of the Power Stack. Of course, we have Power Apps and Power BI as well, but Power Automate is going to be the one that we're focusing on today. So how about you give a little bit of an introduction to yourself before we get into it?
Great. Thanks, Kristen. So as we stated, I'm Mary Myers. I am now one of 6 female Microsoft MVPs in the world. So super excited about that. And I like to say that my special niche is kind of connecting and extending Business Central, specifically with the Power Platform, right? And one of my favorite ways of doing it, of course, is Power Automate. I love it so much that in March of this year, I actually started my own company called WorldMax, where I specialize in helping partners and end users do just that, make Business Central even better than it already is with some extra magic of the Power Platform.
Awesome. So what exactly is Power Automate and how can we use that with Business Central?
Yeah, so Power Automate is kind of a way to connect your data in Business Central with 700 plus other out of the box connectors, right? So that really gives Business Central a lot of versatility. So, and what I mean by like integrations and connecting, right? It's like a lot of times we're going to have data in one system, right? It's an ERP system, it's full of data. And, we probably want to bring data from another system in or out, or take data from Business Central and send it out, right? There's just a lot of cross data information, and that's really what I love about Power Automate, whether it be other systems or other programs right inside the Microsoft ecosystem. It's going to go ahead and automate those different business processes or approval process or just daily tasks, whether it be invoice approvals or something as simple as like grabbing attachments from your vendors and saving it to like the PO or just different things like that, right? It's really being able to digitalize our day-to-day processes.
Well, awesome. So what are some of the pitfalls that you've seen when it comes to Power Automate and Business Central specifically?
Pitfalls. I love that we're starting there, but it's good, right? Like, let's just be honest about it. So I think until just very recently, one of the biggest pitfalls was that the Business Central Power Platform connector was not in general availability. And that was a really big sticking point for a lot of people. But I will say that now it is, right? It is in general availability. So that's really great. But that was one of the biggest pitfalls before. Another pitfall would kind of be around maybe what I would call not necessarily custom APIs, but trying to put some different like extensions together, right? If you have to have some custom APIs to really expand on Business Central, right? Being able to extend different things, that's very common in Power Automate and Business Central. But maybe sometimes if you're working with multiple different ISVs for a company, right, then they're going to have a lot of those extensions in their system. So that sometimes can be a pitfall, or like how do you work combined with various ISV solutions, because a Power App solution and a Business Central extension are not the same thing. So you know what I mean? So it's just kind of from a partner perspective and implementation and kind of lifecycle management. There's been some pitfalls there. And I think just anytime something's new, right? Something's new, we've got like new things. Sometimes there are still some bugs working out in the system. And sometimes it just, I'm like, I can't explain this problem. Let's refresh it and give it an hour and then it's magically working, right? But I mean, anyone that's working on a Microsoft product, I think experiences that from time to time. But I'd say that those are probably the pitfalls.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I mean, I personally have a couple of clients that you've built some pretty awesome flows for, and they've been running for years now at this point, and they have no complaints. They've never needed any additional upgrades or any changes to those flows. So it seems pretty stable overall.
Yeah, I think it really just kind of it's like anything, right? Picking the right solution for the right, problem. Is Power Automate like the perfect, thing for every integration? Well, no, of course not. But when you use it for the right scenarios, right, and keep it right where it's supposed to be, yeah, it's working great, nice and stable. So far so good.
Perfect. So now that we have the pitfalls out of the way, what are some of your best practices when it comes to kind of doing these integrations between Power Automate and Business Central?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the best practice I have is you have to have like a separate user account for your flows, for your apps, for any of your automation, right? Kind of have a service account there. That way you can have it run, for your flows and for your apps. The good thing about Business Central, so let's kind of talk about licensing because it's kind of like a best practice, kind of thing all tied up in one, honestly. Great thing about Business Central is you're actually getting a dual license. What does that mean? You have Power Apps, Power Automate licensing, so you can easily access your Business Central data. That's not necessarily true for some other products. So that's really, really helpful, right? Like you don't have to get a separate Power Automate license to do this. It's already built in. With that being said, a lot of people would like to use maybe like a CFO or something like that type of, thing, or just like IT admin, but it really is best just to have a service account. That way you can kind of lock down your different permissions, especially with Business Central, because that data is going to be different, right? That you want to have run in and out. And especially now, Business Central has run to using just OAuth 2, right? You can't use basic authentication anymore, but if you use the service account, you have it already set up in there and there's nothing to worry about. So that is my first best practice as far as that goes. And then I think that the next thing to do is I always tell people to kind of like, I think where do I start, right? Like is usually like the biggest hassle for people like trying to figure out what they should do. And so I say like just narrow it down to begin with. Try to think of like the three things that are like the biggest like pain in the butts, right? Like whatever is like the bane of your existence, that's where you should start and kind of figure out and kind of make that as simple as possible as well. That would be the other best practice is keep it simple, start small. We've seen this with your customers as well, right? Like I don't ever worry about how small a job is. Great, we can roll that out in a couple of hours. You know what I mean? Which is really what the Power Platform is all about. And then very quickly, customers can see how great it is for them, how little effort it took to get, rolling and started, but also how much ROI that's instantly bringing to them. And so then, kind of keeps flowing. So I'd say also just keep it simple. Document everything, right? Always have really good documentation for your flows, keep good nomenclature through that type of stuff. Um, we'll leave it at that. That gets a little technical after there.
Awesome. Well, one of the last questions I have for you here is, I know you're Microsoft MVP and you're speaking all around the world here at Dynamics 365 conferences in general. Where can someone listening today who wants to learn more about Power Automate, where would you send them to learn?
Yeah, I would send them to a couple different places. One, I would check out all the documentation. The Microsoft Learn documentation is really, really great. I will say that if you're looking for Business Central examples for Power Automate, it is limited. Go out there, check out, some YouTube channels. I've got some stuff out there. You can check out my channel. Also Josh Iglesias, he has some really good stuff out there, blogs as well. And I think if you're really trying to make the change, right, like the difference in the gap between the documentation of what's out there between D365, Power Platform, and just Business Central, you're going to have to look at your CE documentation and use your Business Central brain to really do the translation. Or I don't know, play around and take a look at the Learn documentation.
Awesome. So how can we contact you, Mary, for more information on this?
Yeah, feel free to email me at mary@worldmaxp2.com. You can also find me on my website as well, super easy, www.worldmaxp2.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mary, for joining us and hope that you have a happy holidays.
You too. Thanks.